Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And it brings me great pleasure to introduce to you Adele Bernard, who is a soul strategist and an intuitive guide devoted to creating sacred spaces where one can reconnect with their truth, strength, and heart. With a gift for reading energy and holding presence, she supports you in navigating life transitions, releasing old patterns, and embodying authenticity. Through her 8-week sacred circle, Adele helps you drop the mask, find your voice, and build lasting change and evolution. Her work blends intuition, compassion, and grounded guidance, empowering people to rise with clarity, depth, and purpose, living from a place of wholeness. So let's welcome Adele Bernard. Hi,
Thank you for
Adele.
having me on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you. And there's so much to talk about. I love our meeting and I love the conversations that we've had that preceded this. And one of the things that I remember asking you when I first met you is to tell me a little bit about your story and how you came to be with the gift of intuition.
Well, it started very young for me. The first memory I have is 3 years old,
Wow.
and it was it was interesting because I thought I was talking all the time, but I later found out that I really didn't start talking till I was 4 to
Oh,
the Earth people. I was talking to God, I was talking to the angels, I was talking to all my imaginary friends, but I didn't realize that you had to talk to the actual physical people in front of you. And I also had an older sister who just kind of knew what toy I wanted at whatever time. So she'd run and grab it, and and so I'd be like, "Who needs to talk?" And that's how it all started. I knew things before anyone could understand them. I would mention things to the adults around me. They'd be like, "What are you saying that for?" Like whether someone's having an accident or someone's sick, and they'd be like, "How did you know when they found out?" And I'm like, "How do you not know?"
right, right. So it sounds
I
like you're in a household where your gift was nurtured and received well and that you had siblings that were similar.
um
Yes?
yeah, like my sister and I, like now that we're older, I realize like we've been together many times, so we've always had that different understanding when we're in our aligned space. But when we're not in that aligned space, we're true sisters. We can get at it just as good as anyone else. Um,
Okay.
Yet, um, I don't think my parents truly understood what I was doing or what I was saying.
Okay.
Um, Yet they didn't frown upon it. They didn't say I was crazy,
That's beautiful.
right? So they'd be like, "What did you just say?" And then I go, "You'll see." And then a few days later, or whatever would happen, and then be like, "How'd you know?" I go, "Because I know." And then other times it'd be like, "Why didn't they listen to me?" Because they weren't supposed to, right? We all
Yeah.
have our path, and as much as like it's even like when I'm working with clients, like I can say, "Well, you have a couple choices here." I totally see that they should make choice A. But if they make choice C, it's not wrong or different. It's just they'll take a longer way to get to choice A, but they'll eventually get there. But I have to step aside and allow people to make their choices. It's their journey. It's not mine.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
then how did this evolve and bridge into sharing with people and having clients?
Well, over 30 years ago, I started with people's homes
Okay.
because I used to go, say, to for massage or different sessions, and I'd come home And within 10, 15 minutes of walking in the house, I'd be like, well, that was a waste of money because the house
Okay.
still carried the energy that was causing my muscles to tense,
Okay.
right? And
Right.
so I started in a very, very innocent way talking to the house, talking to the land, right? Because I was always into the nature too. And I'd be like, what are you needing me to know? And I'd get messages. And so for 30 years, I worked on houses, right? Helping couples stay together. If they couldn't stay together, they would be the best co parents for their kids. Or a business isn't running. And why isn't it running? Well, the energy of this office building doesn't match the energy of your business. Change office buildings and they thrive. And so it came very naturally to me. But now, as I dove more into it, I have lifetimes of doing this
Okay.
shamanic dissonance. And so then, um, when I was out as a tour operator out in the mountains, and I was getting the guidance of you have to bring it more home. I said, what does
Mm,
that mean? Walking people home. What does that mean? Right? And I kept on
right.
asking and asking. And it was more that people are getting too busy with the outside world. And now that we're shifting into the fire horse, into the new world, the fifth dimension and beyond, the third dimension is falling apart. The duality is falling apart,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So, what does it mean? I'm walking you home to you, your heart, your alignment with God, the person that you were gifted to be in this lifetime of change, right? Because if you are here in a body right now, you are a chosen one, handpicked to be here because you know your gifts and how to place your personal puzzle piece into the puzzle of this new world because only you can do that.
Right.
And the
Right.
more I opened up to that, um, I was like, okay, so I'm going back into more client work again. I'm going, right? Not just working on the grid of the world,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so magically, I like my touring job closed with 2020. If no one's leaving their home, there's no buses going traveling, right?
Right.
And I said, okay, I honor I'm walking myself home to walk others home. Because now it doesn't matter what the outside world is doing, it's all an inside job.
That's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. So let's deep dive into that. Talk to us a little bit about your work because your work comes a few fold. You have a little bit about transition clarity, and I'd love for you to also comment on the words that are behind you, which is tranquility, mood, and emotion, and then talk to us a little bit about your coaching style and your one-on-ones.
um, so for many years, I worked at an oil and gas company called um, TransCanada.
Okay.
Every day of those 4.5 years, I said, right initials, wrong name. And I kept on asking, right initials, wrong name. What does this mean? And then I left there and I was playing around on um, GoDaddy to look at names, and I'm like, and I kept on putting TC. What do you guys say about TC? And it came up transition clarity,
Ah,
and I
okay.
went, okay, and I bought it. And then my coach said, for what? And I go, I don't know. right? Because
Because you
I was in,
trust yourself,
well,
right?
I know, but I was in that transition, not knowing that the world was going to shut down, not knowing, like, I just knew I had left corporate. I wasn't
Yeah.
going back. What am I going to? And, and so I thought, okay, well, I guess I give clarity in people's transitions. Got it.
Was leaving corporate a major, and I want to get back to those questions, but was leaving corporate a major mark in your life? Did you leave corporate to explore a different area of life, or you just left corporate standardly and it
Well,
wasn't your mark?
I was asked the other day, do I like being an entrepreneur? And I kind of went, I've never thought of it. I've always been an entrepreneur. Even
Hmm.
when I work corporate, I work contracts.
Okay.
Like I'd be called in for a specific job, 18 months, 2 years, whatever. And then I go, oh, great. Now I can take 3 months off, right? Because my body couldn't handle full time. I was, now I know, like I was too sick in my body to be able to work full time.
Okay.
But I could go in and say, I can do a year, I can do 18 months, because then I'd take a 2, 3 months off and do nothing and let my
Okay.
body integrate. Because when you're an empath, you're picking up everything, right?
Everything. Okay. And you're an
So
empath.
your illness isn't yours,
Yes.
right? And so it took me years, and I'm still playing, kind of figuring this out too, right? Because I don't go out very much anymore into the public, like grocery shopping can be cr- a crazy task for me, but I do it because I gotta get it in public,
Right.
you know? Um,
Right.
and so the only job I took as a full time was the last one I did in corporate. And I took the full time job because my coworkers were like, "Oh, you're so lucky you got this team. This team's amazing." Da, da. And I'm like, "Okay." 3 months in to the 4.5 years, I went, "Huh, I like my team. I don't know how people do this for a lifetime,
Mm.
right?" But
Right.
how I stayed as long as I did was because I'd go for coffees, I'd go for lunches, I'd go into the talk rooms and do my spiritual work.
Okay.
So I had that balance,
Balance.
the
That's beautiful.
corporate craziness and the balance of like, oh, this is who I am. Awesome. And that's how I started saying, well, maybe I'm getting out of houses,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Yeah.
when the guidance came. You have to bring it closer to home. What does that mean? That's when walking you home came in. What does that, right? And so it is about coming home to the heart and living and breathing through your heart. And I have a friend who does this meditation who always says, take your nose and put it on your heart. Smell every emotion, smell every feeling, smell, smell, smell through the heart. And every time she goes, okay, put your nose, I go, I know. And I start laughing, right? Because we got to smell everything. So,
Yeah.
and
So I want to
so,
circle. Oh, go ahead.
yeah. And so when I was trying, I used to just have transition clarity up there. And then people had more questions about that. And I'm like, so I dropped that down into my name because that's what Zooms allows us to do. And I went, okay, so what's transition clarity trying to get people to start thinking about?
Right. That's where I was going to go.
Well, not too many people think of their life as tranquil.
Ah,
And so I'm
okay.
saying, but living from the heart, you have that tranquility. Then you also can regulate your moods because your moods are done from your gut or your head. They're not done from your heart. And then if you keep your emotions in check through the heart, the emotional roller coaster doesn't happen. And so when you ask me about my work, whether it's individual or group, It is bringing you into that sacred space, especially in the group, because it's an 8 week program. I held separate groups for men and separate groups for women because they talk differently separately,
Yes.
right? They'll open up separately. And every week we're doing a prayer coming into the group. And every week we're doing a cleansing of anything that was brought up at that session to be cleared and never
Okay.
done. Why you don't have to dig it up anymore.
Right, right.
So,
So, understanding that you work with men as one group and women with as another group, how have your own experiences like helped you to support the groups and more particularly the men, even more than the women? Because, there are very few women who have the talent to really lead all men's groups,
mm,
really being able to understand and get heart to heart with them because men aren't so easily forthcoming with their emotional state, where sometimes we like to bond,
mhm.
so share with us a little bit about that.
um, so part of it is growing up in Calgary. We're
Okay.
heavy oil and gas. We're heavy um, male-driven industries. If there are women, they're usually running out of their masculine,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And I relate to them because even though I look like a woman, I kind of work my life as a man, right? I'm the strong, silent type. I listen more than I speak. If I'm speaking, pay attention because I don't say it again. Um, and also with networking, they called me out. They said, you just, even on the Zoom, they can feel my heart. They can feel like I'm a space that they can share in, that men are being left behind. And then the reasons were scary. I don't feel safe talking at home. This is with their beloved. They're not feeling safe being themselves with their spouse or their kids.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like a bank. They only talk to me when they need money. They feel like a stranger coming home. And I'm like, where have we gone so wrong, ladies, that we've alienated our men? And I
Mm,
actually said this on my friend's podcast. You complain about your spouse being in the cave. You only have you to say you sent them there. And she says, we didn't send them there. I said, we absolutely did. And it's no it's I'm not blaming anybody. But it's like women forget that they're multitaskers. They can have the cooking dinner going. They can have the laundry going. They can be talking to the kids doing homework. They can be watching the calendar to say what's going on tomorrow. Where's Johnny going? Who's picking up Sally? The car has to do this. They just have it all, right? Their partners come into the equation and say, "What's up?" And you go, "That's one more thing I cannot put on my plate right now because I got 10 already." So he leaves. He figures he doesn't need to know anything. And so the biggest advice I can give to married couples, whether they're married or not, I should say, make an appointment with your partner once a week. Do a check-in quietly. What's going on? Take that honey-do list off of the refrigerator because they're never going to look at it, right? And every time they see it on the refrigerator, it gives them angst if they go to get something out of the refrigerator. So you're helping to their food addiction. That's a whole other story. But if you go and you have that half an hour meeting Sunday morning or whatever day you choose, Johnny's getting picked up, Sally's not getting forgotten, the cars aren't breaking down, the laundry's getting done, meals are done. you know where each other are at.
Right, right. So I have to digress and
Okay.
like let's set that aside for a second
Okay.
and let's just talk and pick that apart because the
Okay.
first thing I'm sitting here thinking about is, well, why does that happen? Because, I grew up in North America. I grew up in upstate New
Mhm.
York. Well, I
Mhm.
grew up in New York City, but I lived upstate
Mhm.
New York for 20
Mhm.
years. And I think that when I look at the roles that we play and the idea of the roles that we perceive that we have to fill, part of the problem is that we have these predefined roles. Part of the problem is that, the man has to go out and make all of the money and the woman has to go home and either work at home or try to be superwoman, which is she decides she wants to work and she still has to maintain the house,
Mhm.
and we play these super roles. And then what happens is that when you start getting into your routine, you're stretched very thin. You can only do but so much, and the attention can only go but so far once children are introduced to the whole idea of a relationship. And, in a sense, we do it to ourselves because we get married having this idea that, well, he has to make the money. So you go out and make the money. I'll just raise the kids, blah, 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 you know, but that if things just need to get done and the person who's comfortable doing them stands up to the stands up to the plate, maybe we could blur those lines a little bit and not be so engaged in, this is my job, that's your job, you go do it, you know what do you think?
So this is only my detection
Mm-hmm.
of who I've been working with, and looking back at history. That that notion of the men go and make the money and bring it home, women stay home with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
That is 75 years out of date,
Mm-hmm.
right?
But it still happens.
Because we are still living in that conditioning.
Yes. Yes.
And then, as you say, were from New York, um, and you think about New York, Chicago, Toronto, wherever.
Right.
How many kids were brought up in the projects because dad stepped out, right?
Right.
So, of course, you had to do it all. Dad walked out. Mom was the fiercest caregiver. Mom loved us as much as she possibly could after working two jobs. Mom is my rock. Where was dad? Who's dad? Right? So
Right.
now we're changing it slightly, and I'm happy to say it's um, 1 out of 5 men are now staying home to raise their kids. That wouldn't have happened 75 years ago, right?
I think about
Because
75. I,
okay.
I think about 75 years ago, but there was this other dynamic. We're also talking about city versus countryside because in the countryside, people had a lot of children so that the children would contribute to the work. So in the countryside, you had this notion of the whole family pitches in and everyone has their job. But in the
Mhm.
city, you have this idea of, only mom and dad are working if mom and dad are intact. Yes, you can go the whole single parent dynamic
Mhm.
also.
Mhm.
But this idea that the children don't have to work because it's more or less the city and there's not, they can't contribute the way that they should or could or would
They
typically.
just they just contribute differently. Like, yeah, okay, so when you're on the farm, there's more chores.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I understand
Yeah.
that. But as a city kid, I did different chores. I went and babysat earlier because I didn't have siblings to babysit, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I would be the babysitter, the nanny, whatever, for whoever down the street, right? You
Mm-hmm.
ended up picking up, cleaning up lawns and doing things like that, shoveling, right? So I think there's still always chores. There's still always that sense of I'm pulling my weight, right? And
Mm-hmm.
also, city kids became um, what, what's that word? Entitled. Because the parents were doing better than their parents, they didn't make the kids work. They didn't realize that by making them take the garbage out, making them make their bed, making them pick up their room, that means they're being good citizens of the
And
family.
therein lies where I want to highlight
Yeah.
because
And I say that's the
expectations are
parents. It,
different. Yeah, it is. I agree with you.
mhm.
And so that whole idea of a unit working together so that everyone can prosper degrades in one way or another.
Because,
Not because of
well,
anybody's fault,
yeah,
but it just does. I'm just going to generalize because
I
I don't
know
want to
because
get into like pointing fingers or anything
no,
like
no,
that.
no. And I'm not, I don't want to point fingers either, but it's like if your family unit um, isn't working as a team and mom still ends up doing it all, whether kids and dad are around, shame on her. She has stayed in her conditioning instead of saying, "Hey guys, mom's a bit tired. Do you want to come help mom make your lunch for tomorrow? Or do you want to just do it all yourself?" If they want to have lunch tomorrow, where's your lunch bucket? Bring your lunch bag. Let's build it together. Mom oversees it, or dad maybe takes that chore over and oversees it that they are getting a little bit more health than junk, right? To get that balance. But it doesn't mean you have to do it all because you've always done it.
Done it
Yet,
all. And I
yet
totally
I
agree.
know a lot of kids who were brought up in those bigger families out on the farm doing the chores who've chosen never to have kids because they raised their kids by their brothers and sisters,
Yeah, it's true.
right?
There's no 100% right answer to this, but I
No.
know what you were terming about like mom doing everything versus delegating out the chores to other
Mm-hmm.
members or sitting down with the
Mm-hmm.
family. I tend to call that the martyr syndrome, where
Mm-hmm.
we feel like we have to sacrifice everything in order, to put everybody in front of us and make sure everybody else's needs are met. And
Mm-hmm.
I just find it interesting that in the end, everyone suffers. In the end, the
Exactly.
husband suffers because he's not engaged and he doesn't feel part and he feels like the bank, and the mother suffers because she's exhausted. She's spread too
Yeah.
thin. She's trying to do everything. Everyone in the end,
And the kids are just wanting your attention. Come and sit and
tension.
watch this movie,
Yes.
right? So, and it's funny because growing up, like I realized how privileged I was without knowing it. um, but it was like we were going on say, a ski weekend. We were responsible for packing our ski stuff and our little
Yeah.
bag, right?
Yeah.
And bringing it to the door.
Hmm.
My mom would do further because she'd pack their stuff plus the food, right? Because that's how we got the ski weekends away because we'd bring all the food. We'd have a
Food.
kitchenette in the room, right? Before Airbnbs. Anyways, and so, and then when it was time, dad packed it all up. We just watched that our bags got put in the car, right? So we're good, get in the back seat. We're good, get, right? And I can't imagine like not helping,
Right.
right? Yet I
Not
remember
bringing your own
taking
thing.
my girlfriend's son to baseball,
Uh-huh.
and the other parents were like, "Wow, sure we're lucky to have you." And I said, "In what way?" Well, she's not even here. And I go, well, she's working. She can't be here for baseball, right? Because it's tax season. And they said, yeah, well, our kid just wouldn't be in sports. And I said, interesting. I say, why tell the kid he can't do something because you're at work providing for it if there's an alternative way? But it was interesting. So we go and I said, Garth, let's go. Right? So he begrudgingly does it. And we get back and he goes to tell his mom. Well, she made me carry my bag and everything. And she says, well, good. I won't be doing it again for you. Because she's always saying, we're in a hurry. Let's go. She'll just grab his bag and do it.
Yeah,
No. If he
exactly.
wants to drag it and be late and get yelled at by the coach, that's his journey. I'm not
Exactly.
carrying it.
Right.
And I figured, like, you picked the lightest bag to carry as a sport. Stop complaining.
I
Right?
love it.
You could have been in hockey. You could have been in all these, like, you have to bring like huge bags. Nope.
Exactly. Exactly. Could have been in golf.
And so this is where I say, going forward into this new space where none of us have been, the old saying of choose your battles wisely is going to be more prevalent and in your face than any other time,
Right. Right.
right? Because who wants the kids to go to sports? You or them?
Exactly.
If they are the ones wanting to go, they are responsible for getting their stuff together. It's part of being in the family unit, which breeds good citizens, right?
That's right. That's right. Let's talk about a little bit about your intuition and how it works in terms of the environment that we're in, because so much is taking place around us.
Hmm.
We're in a world where the environment is ever changing so quickly. And, I understand the intuitiveness one on one. You tune into that person individually, you share the insight that you see. What is the insight that you're getting for our world?
Um, we're really at a crossroads.
Okay.
Okay. Um, the ones who are awake and keep awakening will keep going into the new world. The ones who are choosing to stay in the darkness and their shadows will no longer see the awakened. They won't know the world has split because the world has actually split. We're in the two dimensions. Um, that doesn't mean anything's bad's going to happen to the ones that stay behind. They might come and join us at a later time, but they're just not ready right now. The ones who have chosen to be the first round of the awakened, by 2027, things will look really different. By 2030, we won't know the old world even existed.
So we're saying this, but then, like one of the things that I recognize is that sometimes those whom we might term are in the dark or just unaware
Hmm.
are right on the cusp. They could go one way or the other. They're just clueless. They're just so embedded into the routine
Yeah.
of life, the routine of, tr life's trudgery. And I'm going to say it that
Well,
way. because there's a routine of I got to go to work, I got to take care of the kids, I got to do this. And by the time you do that, I'm exhausted. I go to sleep, I start all over again. Right?
And that's where I say, um, and this I mean this with the kindest heart in saying this, the ones who are awake are no longer allowed to reach back and pull people forward
And why do you say no longer allowed?
because the split has happened. Our hand is out to help, but they must grab our hand to say, I'm ready.
Okay, I understand that. I
Right?
understand that because I was,
Before we could reach back and say, anyone ready? And they go, maybe, maybe not. Well, we'll grab on. And then they're not ready. And then it's not beneficial for either party. Where this way, we're always willing to help those who are ready. And if they can see a little bit less darkness in their shadow and can see the light saying, I'm ready to check it out at least, come on up. We're ready to have you. And that the energetics of that are huge. It might sound simple, but it's not, right?
yeah.
Because this is like, even in my own work, I'm like, last fall, I was all ready to get the new class of men going. And we were just like starting to sign people up or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, I got upgraded. They fell apart. They literally dropped off my calendar. And I'm like, huh, really? Because they were kind of ready, but not fully ready. And so I was upgraded to say, are you ready for this next step? And they went, no. And I remember someone I was working with 20 years ago, she's saying to me, she had already been upgraded further than the fifth dimension. And I'm like, what does that mean? This is really like I was young in the awakened state at this level, right? And I go, what does that mean? And then as I like we were friends, and as I talked with her, month in, month out, I'd see people that I thought were tight with her fall apart, off. And I'm like, oh. And she goes, you're seeing it. I'm like, I am so seeing it. They were awakened to a certain point. She's now graduated. They're not doing the work to come. It's no
And
fault.
yeah,
It's not right or wrong.
yeah,
It is what it is, right? It's
yeah.
just like how we met,
Hmm.
right? I've been going to the serving circle forever. And I'd be like, okay, can we get some new blood in the circle? Right? Then David shows up. I'm like, cool, right? You show up and I'm like, cool. And I'm like, finally, people coming up to where I'm at. And
I have
I'm not saying you're further than me or like I'm not. I'm just saying,
no, I understand. I
wow,
understand. I understand. And
right? Because now my light is brighter.
yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna actually engage that because how I like to look at it is that each one of us who are fully aware of what's taking place and what's going on are like beacons of light,
Yeah.
and we're like blinking, going, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And then there are those who are like in the storm
Hmm.
and they're navigating their way, and some just stay in the storm and never go to the lighthouse.
Hmm.
And others figure out how and they go, oh, look at that light blinking. And they get to the lighthouse and they like
Hmm.
decide to come out of the storm.
Hmm.
And then they stand in the lighthouse. And then, for a lack of better terms, and just to go with the analogy, they start blinking. And that's what I mean by on the cusp. So I totally understand. It's not about us convincing people, oh, this
No,
is what's taking place or this is what's happening. Absolutely not. I totally agree. But
no, like
it is about the fact that, and when I talk about the blinking light, And what you just described was just that somebody was at a state of higher vibration energetically. They're just at this vibration where they're just in their peace, in their calm.
But okay, so like even let's go back to um Hawkins
Mm-hmm.
when he said, "We don't even have to talk about vibration. We don't have to talk anything. If we could get the world as a whole living at the vibration of love, which isn't that high, we will have an entirely different planet."
Right.
But there are
Right.
some of us that are so far off his scale that don't even know, like, love. Like, that's nothing. Like, that's preschool. But there's so many under love that won't rise, that won't
Yeah.
evolve, that choose to stay in the quagmire. And if love is the time of where the planet shifts into the duality, I say to the part of the people that have not shifted, start living your life out of love and gratitude and watch your life change.
Yes.
It's not a huge thing. Take 3 deep breaths in gratitude or love a couple times a day. Watch your life change. And when you start spinning into that spiral, which we all do, no one's above it. Like every
Yeah.
time you think you're above it, whack, you're spinning, right? And when you get into that spin, take a step back. Even if you're in that meeting, even if you're doing a podcast like we are, you can always take a step back and just deep breathe and smile. And they have no idea what you're doing, but you're breathing deep. You're getting back in alignment because you saw your head start spinning and your body will follow. Take care of yourself first because even God did. He rested. He worked, then he rested. He told us exactly how to live our life. But we all have forgotten the rest, the breath, because we're too busy doing
Doing, doing,
instead
doing.
of being, right? And as
Right.
Eckhart Tolle says it the best, is that so? Someone's blah, 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 blah. Is that so? That's not his presence. But he's not denying the person in the story that that's not where their presence is,
Mm-hmm.
where their spin out is. He just says, is that so? And that's where, not to toot my own horn because it's not about me, it comes through me, is the power in the coursework I do with people. You come
Which is
in, you're
go
coming
ahead.
in with your stories. I'm grounding you in who you are before we start. Everyone's on the same page. We're getting into the God essence. I'm not talking about churches. I'm not talking about synagogues. I'm getting into the God essence. We share what we need to share and clean it up.
Yes. So that's a
Right?
perfect segue right into the fact that if we have listeners who are going through a personal transition right now, what is one practical step and mind shift that you would recommend to begin like gaining clarity and moving forward with confidence?
I always bring it back to the simplest tool, the one tool that we all forget in the heat of the moment is the deep belly breath. And if you
Mm,
want to take the deep belly breath further, you can do the 4 box breath, which is You breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you let go for 4, and then you hold for 4. So you're doing that waltz within yourself, within that breath. And the most important thing is it brings you back to your center point of your heart, where the mind can't take over anymore. The gut can't say, but we're afraid. No, you're not. You're fine. You're in deep breath. You can't, and I don't even want to use can't. While you're in that deep breath, or the box breath, or whatever breath you want to choose, it takes the fear away. Because fear is only false evidence appearing real. So if we say, well, that elephant's going to come trample us, we go, box breath. And then if you have your eyes closed, you'll open your eyes and you'll see the elephant going, hello. And you go, hello, all
Mhm.
good. It like, and it's really interesting. Even the neighborhood dogs or cats or whatever, they'll only charge or feel they have to do something if you're giving the energy of fear. A dog will walk past you 1,000 times if you're just like, hello, walk past. Minding your own business, he's minding his own business. You start walking up and he starts getting antsy, that's your sign you are not in presence.
Right.
Because you'll see it on the owner's face, like, what's wrong with the dog? Right? And then the owner starts going, okay, well, why is my dog acting up? And then I'm like, oh, sorry, it's me. I'm totally into a podcast. I wasn't aware. And I apologize to the owner because I know I'm triggering that dog to say I'm not present. So is he in fight or flight? He's doing his natural instinct. And I am triggering him by not being present. I'm in the podcast. And we do this all the time. People with work, people like it in their families. Are we present? Do we deserve that
No.
reaction?
A lot of people don't show up present, and I want to qualify that, and we could talk a little bit about that. But not being present means that if you came from a different meaning
Mm-hmm.
and you're still reeling from it and you have
Mm-hmm.
anxiety from it or anger from it, or you showed up and you're fidgety and you just like, oh, I just want to get this over with, or whatever the case may be, you're not present.
Mm-hmm.
You are not present, or you're so busy engaged in what you want to accomplish and what you're thinking and how
Yeah.
you're going to control the meeting or how you're going to get to the end result that you want. You're present but you're not present because then you're not listening.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
stating but you're not listening. Yeah.
and it's interesting because when I was in corporate, like, um, we used to have Monday morning meetings for the projects, and they'd come in with their phones, and it's just like the meeting should have been 20 minutes.
Right.
It would drag on for an hour and a half. And so I said to my boss, I go, okay, I'm starting a new thing. He goes, now what? They used to always go, what a ship to? Right. And I said, no phones allowed in the meeting. And he goes, what? And I go, no phones allowed in the meeting. And so I was the gatekeeper. I go, where's your phone? If it's in their pocket, they put it in the basket. And if it's in their desk, that's great. It's amazing. Monday morning meetings only went to 30 minutes.
Well,
Boom, out of
there's
here.
yeah, there's another way that people don't show up, and I just recently experienced this where I was working with somebody, and we had a 20-minute task of inserting, you know, X in a book, right? Just 6 pictures in a book with little subtitles under it. It took us 2.5 hours,
Mhm,
and what kept happening is that not only would they say, "This is where I want it," and
mhm,
this is the excerpt that needs to go under it. But then they wanted to explain why it was important, how it should be, why we should appreciate it, this whole dissertation. And I'm like going, time out. I respect and I honor what you're saying, but we have a 20-minute task. Let's just get through the task.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where they were so not present and so in their own world of explanation. I just said, I just threw my hands up. And, it was a couple of things. I could have been curt, abrupt, and cut it off and just said, I gotta go. Or I could be patient because I had to get the job done with this person no matter what. So I just threw my hands up. I just listened and it's okay. We're ready for the next one after about a 15-minute dissertation for each and every scenario. And it's very, very, very frustrating when you're not present or when you're
Well, I
not.
know. But when you're the present one and they're not, and you decide, I'm going to be abrupt and leave the meeting, you shut the door and they go, what's up her about? Why is she so
Exactly.
grump? And it's like, you haven't shown up to our meeting. But
Yeah.
that's where like yeah, different bosses I've had throughout the years were just like um not sure what I was up to, but they got used to following my lead, right? Because I'd be like, okay, this meeting's going nowhere. I don't have the time for this. Okay, how do I swing it back around? Right?
Yeah. Or
And
how
then
do I
it's
get
really funny because I had this one project manager. He used to say to me, like, he go, I just don't even know what to do with you some days. And I go, why? And he goes, like, you just get me so like right? And then I said, but you still love me anyways. And I'd walk away, right? And like he actually lives like a couple blocks from my house. And I see him now and his wife, and it's just like we're a big happy family, right? And I go, huh, you still love me, don't ya?
But you know what's so funny is that the scenario I described, people might not be able to identify the fact that that's still not being present,
Yeah,
you know, because the person is engaging, is talking to you, but they won't shut up and stop and
yeah.
focus.
Being present is focused. Being
Being
present
present,
is,
focused, and the discipline of knowing when to stop
hmm.
is ever as important as knowing when to engage.
Well, and it's interesting because in my own life, I've been trying to discern between the I of truth and the me of story,
Okay,
right?
tell us a little bit more about that.
So, say, okay, so I am the light, right? Well, me's falling into the shadows again. I'm gonna keep on talking until it all comes out. No, I am the light. Period. End. No add me of the story,
Exactly.
right? And I was starting to write a talk that I gotta do for a group, and I'm writing it, and I'm going, you're not gonna say a dang thing you just wrote. That is all story. I might take this podcast though and go, yeah, I'll just take this and this, because, and then I'm also thinking, like, as I was writing that yesterday, have you ever read anything when you've done a speech? No. The few times I go, okay, I got my paper, it's all printed out, I'm at the podium ready to speak, and I literally flip it over.
Okay. Yeah.
Because God says this is what we're talking about. This is
Well,
where the audience
don't
is.
get that. I just had a conversation with someone. Um, Actually, you know who had a conversation with. I had a conversation with Dr. Gary Woolman, the presentation. What does he call himself? The presentation.
Curator or something.
Yeah, and we were talking. He said his goal was to get people to throw PowerPoint away because what
Absolutely.
happens is that you get in front of an audience and when you sense their energy, the clarity by which the information should be delivered and what they should know comes right through you. And what happens is that we're so engaged with this formalization, submit. These are my bullet points. Here's how it's going to flow. Here's what I'm going to say. Here's how it's going to go. Blah, 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 blah.
And
Right?
okay, so I'm glad you're talking about that because I see a PowerPoint, like I was at Hans's group, PowerPoint came up, I'm gone.
Me too. I've actually not collaborated with people because they're like, okay, let's do a PowerPoint. No, thank you. Right here
I
in
know
Angola.
because it's like I'm listening, but I started working and I went, oh my God, I did it again. Now I know it's the PowerPoint because I was thinking, well, if I get a couple slides, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I can't even make them anymore because I've
Yeah,
made so many for so many people over the
me
years. And
too.
I'd be like, no. And that would, mind you, that was in a stage way. But if they're watching your PowerPoint, they're not watching you to get the essence of what you're saying.
Hey, exactly.
And this brings this whole conversation into the now, the presence. The PowerPoint distracts.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to my coach the other day and I was just like, I was feeling really inadequate because I
Uh-huh.
didn't have the PowerPoints. I don't have the handbook. I and he goes, "Who's who's downloading it anyways?" And I go, "Meaning? Who's downloading the PowerPoint? Who's downloading the handbook?"
Who's setting it up?
Right? And I went, "Oh, hilarious. I downloaded a handbook and I wrote other notes all over it. I didn't write the notes I was supposed to write in it because." And I went, "Huh." And that took me a lot to print out because I had to go find a printer. I haven't used a printer in 4.5 years. Because who downloads the stuff,
Right, right, right,
let alone prints the dang stuff?
right, right. Well, it's a form of control, in the respect that people want to know what they're getting and control what you're saying and keep it within the realms of where they're comfortable. And, we have to learn to be able to allow and afford people to speak extemporaneously, speak from their heart, and let them
Well,
share what they're supposed to. When you're an expert on something, it's going to flow right through you anyway.
and
But
I'm
for
saying,
to read right off of a screen, you can read what's written there as well as I can. So don't
and in
be a
my
private
case, they
tutor.
can read it 100 times better than I can because
Yeah,
they say I'm a bit dyslexic. I haven't taken that label on,
yeah,
right? So am
right.
I going to read the screen that the words aren't going to jumble right anyways? Not a chance. I'll,
Yeah,
I'll let you read the screen if you choose to. But I'd
yeah,
rather see your eyeballs to eyeballs.
yeah. It's important. I hate that we're going to be bringing this conversation to a close because I love speaking with you.
I
Uh,
know.
Coming up on an hour, and I did want to ask you this.
Hmm.
That person who needs to recognize what it is within them that could be directed in a manner by which helps them awaken. How do they recognize that? What is it that they should be looking for?
Well, this has been the million-dollar question of marketing that has driven me batty. Um, the awakening process in what is being reflected back to me is they're in that job career, they're doing the 9 to 5, and yet there's something in their gut that's yearning for more. Their heart saying, we don't have to do this, right? It's that engineer or accountant, just because they're the numbers people, who says, I used to be a drummer and a guitarist until I got in the real world. And I'm saying pick up the brush, go buy yourself a guitar, start getting back into the essence of who you were, right? Um, it's also the person who just got the kiss off check, as someone we both know says. That is your biggest wake up call.
Mm.
Get out of the box and fly. The gold watch handshake thing that they used to do, most people generations back would say, well, my life is over. And I say, your life has just begun. Let's talk, right? Or like, even like the empty nester. I don't got anyone underfoot right now. Who am I becoming again?
Right.
Because we live longer. We can have a whole other career after our careers. Like there's so many people in the solo entrepreneurship space that are 75 plus, just starting a new career. And I have my trumpets for them,
Yes.
right? Keep going. I have a friend who's 98. Can I catch up with her? Never. She's too busy living. What an example that a blessing
Yeah.
I have in my life to follow,
Yes.
right? And so I'm saying it's those people who know they've been in a rut, they're aware of it, and they're not sure where to turn. I say, call me. We'll figure it out.
Hmm.
Right? Yeah.
Right. So, how can people reach you and talk a little bit about the services you bring so that our readers and our engagers and our listeners can reach you and read a little bit more on your website, etc.
Okay. So if you're seeing this on Zoom or wherever you put it, you can use my booking link. It's a free call, or follow me on LinkedIn. Um, I'm also on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel under Transition Clarity. That's where you can find all my recordings and website podcasts. And if you want to go to my website, it's bit.ly backslash transition clarity with a capital T, capital C in the transition clarity. And yeah, I'm open to a conversation. If you're unsure, if you're not even sure that you're in transition or that you need anything, it's okay, still call. We'll give you some clarity and we'll get you set right. And if I'm the right practitioner, great. If I'm not, it's okay too. But I use like in my experience, if you decide to make that call, we usually have something to do together. So, and I honor that because I have put the parameters out there, right? I am
Hmm.
calling in my tribe. I'm not calling in Joe's tribe. I'm calling in my tribe. So if you resonate with me, if you feel that you can feel my energy, my heart, my compassion through this interview, come talk to me. You already know I won't bite. So,
Absolutely not. I
yeah.
want to thank you so, so much for coming on The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And to my listeners out there, you've heard Adele speak. And if you know someone who would benefit from listening, please share this podcast. And I'm going to ask you to please subscribe if you feel inclined and this resonates with you for other guests that will be coming on board. Adele, again, I want to thank you so much for being here on The Infinite Way.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Yes. And this has been another episode, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.